Welcome, everyone. Today we're diving into a fascinating perspective on the current state of the Ukraine war and NATO's endurance. So, the main idea here is that, according to Colonel Douglas Macgregor, the Ukrainian army and society have completely exhausted themselves in this prolonged conflict.
I'm intrigued. So he's arguing that not only is the war over, but NATO has also reached its limit, right?
Exactly. He
Yeah.
contends that both Ukraine and NATO have hit a point of exhaustion. Macgregor, being a retired colonel and former advisor to the Secretary of Defense, uses his background to support the claim that the prolonged strain and resource drain have effectively ended Ukraine's war efforts and simultaneously left NATO worn out.
That's a bold claim. How does he illustrate the exhaustion of Ukraine's military and society?
Well, he suggests that after years of relentless fighting, the cumulative impact on the Ukrainian army's morale, resources, and the overall societal resolve has led to a critical, almost terminal depletion. It's like running a marathon without a break. You eventually just run out of steam.
I can picture that. But doesn't that notion oversimplify the resilience many people still see in Ukraine?
True, and that's where his analysis gets a bit controversial. While his perspective is rooted in certain historical parallels of warfare exhaustion, critics argue that Ukraine's spirit and innovative tactics might well carve out a different narrative. It's a
Right?
very polarized debate.
And what about NATO? How does Macgregor view the alliance's current state?
He argues that NATO, after years of continuous military support and political commitments without a definitive victory, has become as drained as its members. It's like they've overextended themselves trying to maintain pressure and support, and now they're at the end of the line.
So, in other words, he believes that the alliance's constant engagement eventually saps its strength, kind of like trying to keep your smartphone battery alive with too many apps running.
Exactly. It's like, pushing your phone past its limits until it shuts down unexpectedly. That's his analogy to NATO's current predicament, a system that's, well, overworked from maintaining an unsustainable commitment.
Interesting analogy. But isn't NATO known for its resilience and adaptability? I mean, its track record over decades shows an ability to rebound from challenges.
That's a solid point, and critics definitely use that argument. Macgregor's stance is, no doubt, stark. He's saying that despite NATO's historical resilience, the relentless pace of modern conflict has worn it down. It's more of a statement about unprecedented exhaustion rather than a failure of the alliance's foundational strategies.
I see. And does he offer any insight into what this means for future geopolitical dynamics?
Yes, indeed. He implies that both Ukraine and NATO now face a crucial crossroads. For Ukraine, the point is that internal resources and societal will have been so sapped that continuing the fight in the same manner could be futile. For NATO, it suggests that a recalibration of strategy might be necessary. It's like, when you're on a long trip, sometimes you have to decide if you need to change routes or even take a breather to avoid burnout.
That's an interesting way to put it. So, he's essentially calling for a strategic rethink, given that the present model might no longer be sustainable.
Exactly. He's warning that continuing down the same path without adapting might lead to even deeper troubles. His
Yeah.
point is more about urging a fundamental reconsideration of tactics and policies.
That raises a question. Wouldn't such a recalibration risk destabilizing the current balance? Or might it instead pave the way for, a fresh start in diplomatic and military strategies?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? On one hand, a strategic realignment could mean new opportunities for diplomatic breakthroughs. On the other, there's the risk of unpredictable shifts. He seems to believe, though, that without significant change, both Ukraine and NATO might crumble under their accumulated fatigue.
Yep, it paints a picture of both imminent risk and the potential for renewal if new methods of engagement are found.
Absolutely. And while his analysis is compelling, it's important to note that it's also, well, very debated. Many experts caution that declaring the war over might be premature or overly pessimistic, given the unpredictable nature of conflict.
Right? Because history is full of examples where conflicts seem destined to end, only to take unexpected turns.
Exactly, and that's where his perspective challenges the conventional narrative. By asserting that both Ukraine and NATO have, in effect, reached their limits, he forces us to consider that perhaps the dynamics of modern warfare and alliance commitments need a fresh review.
I love that. It really pushes us to think about how far we can stretch our international commitments before things unravel.
Yes, it's like when you're stirring a pot that's been on the fire for too long and it just starts to overboil. There's a point where sustaining the pressure only leads to catastrophe unless you intervene with a new plan.
That's a vivid image. But do you think Macgregor's background bolsters his claims, or does it also bias his analysis?
It's a bit of both, really. His extensive military experience certainly lends authority to his observations. However, it may also predispose him to see conflicts in more absolute terms. He takes a definitive stance, declaring, for instance, that the conflict is over, when in reality, geopolitical situations are rarely so clear-cut.
Yeah, I appreciate that nuance. So, while the argument is compelling, it also invites vigorous debate.
Precisely. There's a dynamic tension here between a call to recognize the obvious signs of exhaustion and the optimism that even in prolonged conflicts, unforeseen shifts can occur. It really challenges us to ask, when is enough enough?
Right on. And in the end, aren't these discussions exactly what we need to critically evaluate current and future strategies in international relations?
Absolutely. It's about questioning old paradigms and, considering that sometimes even the mightiest alliances can reach a tipping point. It's a call for introspection on how prolonged conflict shapes our global security landscape.
It's a fascinating interplay of exhaustion, strategy, and renewal. I can definitely see how these points force us to rethink the longevity and sustainability of military and political commitments.
Yes, and it's this kind of rigorous debate, acknowledging both the hard truths of war weariness and the potential for strategic pivots, that ultimately enriches our understanding of global affairs.
And while some might label his conclusions as dire, they actually serve as a necessary caution. After all, if your team is running on empty, isn't it better to recognize the signs before a total breakdown occurs?
Exactly, and it truly underscores the importance of adaptability. If your approach isn't working anymore, you're not meeting new challenges with fresh strategies, then you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, I agree with that. But here's a thought. Do you think his analysis might be a bit too definitive? After all, declaring that a war is over could close the door on potential alternative interpretations of the evolving conflict.
That's a fair critique. It might be seen as overly final, especially when, historically, what appears to be the end has sometimes morphed into a new chapter instead. It challenges us to balance realism with cautious optimism.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance between acknowledging fatigue and remaining open to unexpected resilience.
Right, and this debate encourages us to keep questioning what end even means in this context. Is it the cessation of active fighting, a pause for recalibration, or something else entirely?
And that ambiguity is what makes geopolitical analysis so fascinating. Nothing is ever completely black and white.
Absolutely. In the end, whether you side with Macgregor's view or see it as a red flag urging caution, his perspective forces experts and policymakers alike to re-examine the thresholds of endurance in warfare and alliances.
Well said. It's a poignant reminder that in our fast-changing world, no system is immune to the pressures of time and continuous strain.
Exactly. And while his tone might seem alarmist at times, it ultimately serves to provoke the kind of conversation that we desperately need about strategic innovation and rest.
I completely agree. And it goes to show that even in dire assessments, there lies an invitation to fundamentally rethink our approach to long-term conflict and alliance management.
Right. So, if nothing else, Macgregor's arguments push us to ask the difficult questions. How do we sustain ourselves over prolonged periods of conflict? And when should we decide to change our tactics?
Yeah. And that's what makes this discussion so vital and timely. It's both a warning and a call to action, urging a strategic reset before the tired systems collapse entirely.
Absolutely. And it's been a thought-provoking conversation, one that not only challenges established narratives, but also opens the floor for new strategies in international conflict resolution.
For sure. I mean, while his conclusions might be debatable, they undeniably make us look twice at what sustainability in warfare and alliances really means today.
Exactly. Thanks for this engaging discussion. It's important to keep questioning and critically analyzing such bold claims, as it spurs innovative thinking in policy and practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's keep exploring these perspectives. Until next time, stay curious and keep challenging the status quo.
Right on. Until then, keep questioning and stay thoughtful.
See you in the next discussion.